Good evening. Thank you for joining our Molokai community meeting. I'm Kuhea Siu, Community Relations Specialist for Hawaiian Electric, Maui County, and tonight's moderator for the evening. Tonight, we'll be sharing an overview of a community-based renewable energy program being offered for your island and a high-level overview of our team's proposed project. This is an opportunity for community members to ask preliminary questions on both the program and the project. Should our project be selected, additional details will be shared in a subsequent community meeting. Before we start, I'd like to emphasize the purpose of the meeting is to hear from you. We have allotted lots of time for Q&A after our brief presentation and have set up a variety of ways that you can submit questions throughout the night. You can submit questions via the WebEx Q&A box or the comment section in our live Facebook event. You can also email us at molokaiCBRE@hawaiianelectric.com or text us at 808-268-2808. We ask that you please keep your questions concise so that we're able to answer them effectively and have enough time to respond to all of the questions that will come in tonight. Tonight's presentation is being live streamed on Akaku Channel 54, as well as our Hawaiian Electric Facebook page. It will be available to view again after tonight via our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and at scheduled times on Akaku Channel 54. Joining me tonight from Hawaiian Electric are Jack Shriver, Director of Generation Project Development, and Ellen Nishiwa, Business Development Manager. I'd like to turn it over now to Jack.
Great. Thanks, Kuhea. We're here to talk to you this evening about community-based renewable energy. You may have also heard of it referred to as CBRE or community solar, and more recently being referred to as shared solar. We're going to cover an overview of what the shared solar program is about, and then we'll talk about a particular solar and battery project that we are considering. We have an ambitious goal here in Hawaii to replace fossil fuels with renewable resources to generate all electricity by year 2045. And we're on track to get there. This takes a massive effort and a massive investment. In order to stay on track, all of us, businesses, communities, government entities, we all need to work together. If we don't, we won't reach independence from our outside fuel suppliers, and we won't become the clean energy paradise that we all want to achieve. So to date, residents and businesses that don't have their own roof or haven't installed their own solar system for whatever reason have not had the opportunity to participate in this team effort or to benefit from any savings from having their own solar system. And our proposal tonight is an opportunity to change that. You may have heard us use the term self-build team, and I want to take some time to explain what that means and who we represent. On the presentation tonight, we are all Hawaiian Electric employees who are part of a separate team at Hawaiian Electric, which is charged with ensuring that our customers have the opportunity to benefit from the value that a utility-owned project could provide. Public Utilities Commission wants to ensure that our customers get the lowest cost, highest value energy that the market can provide. So they require that we have a competitive bidding process into which all developers can propose their best offer. The company can then select the best one for our customers. Hawaiian Electric has to compete for these new projects just like everyone else. In order for Hawaiian Electric to compete in this RFP to own and operate new energy facilities, we implemented the Public Utilities Commission's framework for competitive bidding. Hawaiian Electric developed a strict code of conduct approved by the Public Utilities Commission and established two internal teams. The RFP team, which develops issues and evaluates the responses to the RFP, and the self-build team, which develops and submits our company's proposals for utility-owned projects into the RFP, just like other bidders do. The two teams are not allowed to communicate with each other about any matters related to their request for proposals, or that would provide any competitive edge to the self-build team for the duration of the RFP process. Compliance with the Code of Conduct is overseen by an independent observer who ensures that the whole process is conducted fairly by the RFP team for all bidders, and that the self-build team is not afforded any preferential treatment. Independent observer reports to the Public Utilities Commission. So that's the framework that we're operating in today. And we're here to talk to you because there is a draft request for proposals that will be seeking a new solar and battery facility for Molokai. And we, as the self-build team, are allowed to participate, and we're planning to do so. So tonight, we're here to tell you what we would like to propose for the forthcoming request for proposals. Please keep in mind that if you have general questions about Hawaiian Electric, we are utility employees and we will try to answer them. If you have specific questions about how the RFP was developed, the status of the RFP, or how it will be evaluated, we may not be able to answer, but we can steer you to the same publicly available resources that we have access to. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ellen.
Thanks, Jack. So I'll briefly provide an overview of shared solar, or CBRE, from a subscriber perspective before we get into project details. So shared solar is an opportunity for customers who are unable to or choose not to install solar on their roofs. So customers who rent or live in multifamily units are able to participate and enjoy the benefits, both financially and environmentally, of solar. Hawaiian Electric customers are able to subscribe to a facility who would export their renewable energy to the grid. So this is a virtual financial transaction where in that the facility will not be physically or directly connected to subscriber homes or businesses. And in return, participating customers will receive a credit from the utility to offset their electric bill. In this phase of the RFP, the Commission and the RFP team has placed emphasis on residential customer participation and requiring a minimum of 40% of residential customers, residential subscribers to each of these projects. But this is just a minimum requirement, and more residential customers can participate. The subscriber organizations or developers are responsible for building and maintaining the facility and satisfying all the technical requirements of a safe and reliable energy resource for the island. Once the facility is in operation, the subscriber will pay a fee to the subscriber organization, and the utility will apply credits to the customer's bill to offset the electric bill. And since the competitive bidding process, the RFP process has not yet started and a winning bidder hasn't been selected, we're not able to share specific details about our program proposal at this time for competitive reasons. However, we can share other examples of savings from across the country, other shared solar programs, and their savings levels that they've offered, which range from 5 to 20%. Programs with higher levels of savings have been achieved through government subsidies. Rooftop solar lease program, lease options, or power purchase agreements, which are where the solar system is installed on your roof, on the customer's roof, but another company owns and maintains these systems, result in similar savings between 10 and 20% and require modifications to the building, and including drilling holes in the roof and long-term contracts between 10 and 20 years. Purchasing rooftop solar and battery systems offer 20-year savings in the 10 to 35% range, depending on the tax credits available when the system is installed. This option also requires roof or building modifications, and in addition, the system will require monitoring, maintenance, and periodic repairs. Next, we'll go over some general guidelines by the RFP team are out to all bidders. And these are guidelines that are currently proposed and in front of the Public Utilities Commission for review and approval before issuance. So here are some subscriber eligibility requirements that have been proposed by the RFP team, which include having subscribed customers that have continued electric service at their current residence for at least 6 months in efforts to right-size their subscription must not have received a disconnection notice within the last 12 months. However, in recognition of the pandemic situation, this has been proposed to be waived for 2 years and not apply at all to low to moderate income subscribers. Customers must also not be enrolled in any other rooftop solar or shared solar program in order to broaden the participation of customers in our solar programs. And finally, customers must subscribe to a project on the same island as the service address of the electric account. Additionally, here are some proposed program structure requirements that are proposed by the RFP team that again are in front of the Public Utilities Commission for review and approval. So subscribers are proposed to receive monthly fixed bill credits according to the shared solar facility that they select. And subscribers may accrue these shared solar credits to offset future electric bills within a 12-month period. And that these credits will not be able to reduce a subscriber's electric bill below the minimum customer charge. So these are just some of the general proposed guidelines that are in front of the Public Utilities Commission for review and approval. Now I'll turn it over to Jack to talk, share more details about the specific project.
Thanks, Ellen. So our particular proposal that we're developing in response to this draft RFP will be up to approximately 2.5 megawatts of solar PV paired with battery energy storage system. Project is proposed to be sited at our existing Pala'au generating station, as you can see there on the map shown by the yellow dot, and we'll zoom in on that in a minute so you can see it better. And the RFP requires that all projects will be in service no later than the end of 2025. We haven't developed a specific schedule yet, but if we are selected for this project, we will come back and have another public meeting where we'll provide a lot more details about that schedule. To zoom in on the Pala'au power plant, you all are probably familiar with the layout here. The Pala'au power plant is shown in the foreground on this graphic on the right. And the area that's outlined in green is about just under 7 acres that is owned and operated right now by Hawaiian Electric Company. It is a plot of land that, since we're proposing to use it as the self-build team for a project, is now made available to all bidders to develop. In this slide, you can see the same view, but we've shown a rendering of what our proposed project might look like. Now, we haven't done detailed design yet, but I wanted to give you an idea of what this project will look like and the size of it. So you can see it visually there. There are rows of solar panels. It will be up to about 7,000 panels. And all of those panels will feed into those white boxes that you see in the foreground there, which represent the battery energy storage system. Now, as you all know, solar power only produces energy during the day when the sun is shining. The reason why we have a battery energy storage system there is to absorb that energy during the day and be able to deliver it whenever it's required. So the system should be able to provide energy at night or during the day, and also balance the loads on the grid so that we can manage the energy flow there on Molokai better. The other advantage of having a battery system is that the project will be what's called black start capable. And what that means is that in the event that there's an outage on the island, this system will be able to start up on its own without any external power and be able to help restore sections of the grid or help start up the power plant at Pala'au, or whatever else is needed to restore power to our customers out there on Molokai. You can see in the foreground, the orange line that's shown there going across is the proposed, or an approximation at least, of the power line that will be connecting the project into the existing substation there at Pala'au Generating Station. And this is important because it's about 400 yards long. It's all would be contained on company property, so there wouldn't be any new power lines that would, extend across the island. So here's a list of permits that we think may be required. Some of these permits may not be required depending on final design, but this is a comprehensive list of what we think will be required. Here's a presentation of the timeline for the shared solar program. Some of these dates are established by the RFP team and the Public Utilities Commission, and then some of them will be established by the winning bidder through the RFP process. We'll just walk everybody through this. The RFP was initially scheduled to come out in October. That hasn't yet happened. We don't know when the final RFP will come out. We're expecting that will come out hopefully in the next couple of months. And we're expecting that once the RFP is finally issued, that bidders will have about 2 months to put in a proposal. That's what the draft RFP says, and that's what we're expecting for the final version. The winning bidders should be selected according to the most recent schedule that came out from the RFP team in the middle of 2021. And at that point, that winning bidder will be coming back to you, the community, to provide real details on what exactly their projects are and what their timelines are and what their shared solar program savings will be. So we're hoping to come back to see you if we're selected for this project after selection sometime in 2021. At that point, the selected project owner will be able to go out and actually start offering subscriptions to the folks there on Molokai. But of course, you won't be able to realize the savings until the project is in service. So I've shown on here a rough construction timeline. Again, we don't have the details, but we would hope to start the construction sometime in 2022. And we'll complete it by the end of 2025. More details to follow on that. I would like to point out that we are hoping to get your feedback from now anytime through the end of December. We had previously, you may have seen in a previous notice that we put out that we were hoping to get comments by December 11th. We've extended that comment period out through the end of December because the RFP schedule has moved a little bit. So we're happy to take your comments and your feedback and we can provide them. We have several benefits that we think that we as the utility can offer to our shared solar customers. The first is that Hawaiian Electric is a local company and we are committed to serving the Molokai community. Secondly, as you all probably know, there have been some other projects that have been proposed and developers that have come and made, I think, good faith bids, and for one reason or another, they haven't been able to complete the projects. As a utility bidder, we will deliver on the proposed project if selected. The third benefit that we think that a utility proposal offers above other potential competitors is that it will be more convenient for our subscribers to participate in our program. This is, as Ellen mentioned when she talked about the shared solar program, you'll continue to get, as a subscriber, you'll continue to get a utility bill with the credits applied. You'll also have to provide your payments to the subscriber organization or the winning developer. if Hawaiian Electric is selected, all those transactions will happen with a single point of contact. Lastly, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a shared goal here in Hawaii to reach 100% renewable energy by 2045. The utility is primarily responsible for and leads that effort, but it's a team effort. And as a community solar developer, we're really looking forward to this project contributing to that. Back to you, go ahead.
All right, thanks so much, Jack. This brings us to the question and answer portion of our presentation. At this time, I'd like to also recognize McKenna White, who is a planner at Planning Solutions, Inc. He is serving as an environmental consultant and will be on hand to answer any questions of that nature. We'd like to remind you of ways that you can submit questions tonight. You can do that by submitting your question to the WebEx Q&A box or the comment section of our live Facebook event. You can also email us at molokaiCbre@hawaiianelectric.com or text us at 808-268-2808. As a reminder, we ask that you keep your questions concise so that we are able to answer them effectively and be able to address everyone's questions tonight. With that, we'll get started. The first question is for Jack. Could you please address the Code of Conduct firewall infraction for which you were cited by the PUC in a letter dated November 19, and how you will completely ensure that this will never happen in the future?
Sure, thanks, Kuhea. So I really appreciate that these good, hard-hitting questions, because it shows that you all are paying very close attention to what's going on, and that engagement by the community is really important to us. The Public Utilities Commission did send us a letter. I don't know that it was necessarily citing us, but it did raise some questions about some allegations that the independent observer had made to the commission. I would ask anybody who's interested in following this issue to read the company's response that was just filed back to the commission in response to that letter. I think it's really important that if you go back and you read our response letter and you go and you scroll to see the actual communications, that you'll see that not only did we not conduct any violations of the Code of Conduct, but the folks that engaged in those communications demonstrated a real commitment, and you can see it in the emails that are listed there, a real commitment to the Code of Conduct and our effort to comply with it. You know, our self-build team is particularly committed to the Code of Conduct, because if we aren't able to comply, or for some reason the commission might decide that we wouldn't be able to participate. They made that clear in their letter, and we've always had that expectation. So we're committed to that Code of Conduct. And I also would encourage people that are interested to go and read the Code of Conduct itself, that lays out the rules under which we operate and the consequences if we don't.
Thanks, Jack. Hold on to the virtual mic. The next question is related. Can you explain how the HECO RFP team can make a completely independent selection among the bidders if the HECO-owned self-build team is one of the bidders?
Sure. Again, I would encourage people to go and read the Code of Conduct for themselves and the framework for competitive bidding. It's all explained in there how it's done. So what we've done is we've established two separate teams. We have team rosters, and we have administrative procedures that go into place that prevent any internal communication between the self-build team members and the RFP team members on any matters related to the request for proposals, how it was developed, certainly how it's evaluated, And the RFP team is also not allowed to talk to us on the self-build team about any questions that we may have about the RFP, except for that we do communicate like any other bidder. There's an RFP team email address that we have to communicate through, and that's the only way that we can ask questions or get responses from the RFP team. All those communications are monitored by the independent observer, and so if we don't comply with that, then we'll be called out on it. So I think also it's important to point out that this process has been successfully conducted last year in a series of RFPs that were issued, not related to shared solar, but there was a series of RFPs for Maui, Hawaii Island, and Oahu for new renewable generation and storage resources. The self-build team participated in that as allowed by the Public Utilities Commission. Amongst a whole host of other developers. I don't know the final list. I think it was put out in a press release, but again, since we're not allowed to know how that was evaluated. So what I can tell you is that we were selected for 2 projects out of several projects that we proposed. And in those cases where our proposals were evaluated and other developers were evaluated to provide more value to our customers, those bidders were selected over us. So the process has worked, and it is working.
All right, thanks, Jack. The next couple of questions are for Ellen. What percentage discount will you offer to subscribers on their bills?
Right now, because we're in a competitive RFP process that hasn't yet started, and we haven't, so winning bidder hasn't been selected, we shared some information about kind of savings levels at different programs, and and offering comparisons to rooftop solar lease options and purchase options to give you kind of a ballpark to bracket the savings levels that we're going to target. But unfortunately, because for competitive reasons, we're not able to share specific details about our program proposal at this time.
Okay, your next question is, what will the subscriber fees be?
Similarly, that will be shared by the winning bidder. When they're selected, they will have subsequent community meetings to share exactly those specific details. But until then, we're not able to share it at this time.
Okay, Jack, we're going to come back to you for this question. What additional benefits do you intend to offer to subscribers and island residents? For example, an energy efficiency program, a renewable energy education, and using and potentially training Molokai residents for the installation, operation, and maintenance of the PV and BESS systems.
Yeah, thanks, Kuhea. That list actually is the same, is similar to the feedback that we've gotten from various community stakeholders that we've reached out to over the last few weeks. And so we will be in our procurement process, we'll be taking a close look at what, again, if we're selected, then we'll be taking a close look at what local businesses can be involved in the construction and operation over the long term of our facility. I think that's probably the number one benefit that we can offer. The specifics of an education program has been mentioned to us, and we are looking into that, and also employment opportunities. We don't yet have the overall program. This shared solar opportunity goes across multiple islands. So as we gain more familiarity with what shared solar programs we have, we'll be able to determine more specifically what levels of sort of employment opportunities and training opportunities we can make available. We have that same list that you just asked about, and we're looking at that. Again, we'll be providing more details about that if we're selected.
Okay, so Ellen, this question is for you. Is this project similar to a community solar project, and can people buy shares?
Sorry, I need to unmute. Yes, shared solar goes by many names. Community-based renewable energy, CBRE, community solar. It's the same concept where you subscribe to a facility in exchange for bill credits from the utility. So it's slightly different than purchasing shares. It's subscribing to facility output, but it's to receive benefits, bill credit benefits.
Okay, thank you. Jack, your question is, why did Hawaiian Electric choose to participate and bid in this RFP?
We're choosing to bid in this RFP for two primary reasons. As the utility, Hawaiian Electric is committed to the shared solar program across our service area, and in particular on Molokai, where we have a lot of customers that we think are underserved and deserve the opportunity to benefit from solar, both in environmental benefits that we all are familiar with, and also with savings. So that's really important to us, and so we think it's really important that the utility support that and provide a really good, solid proposal to build something. The second reason is, I don't need to tell anybody on Molokai that there's been a series of renewable projects that have been proposed for Molokai. A lot of people have worked hard on them, and for one reason or another, they haven't come to fruition. And we recognize that it's really important that we, as a utility, invest in the renewable energy program there and make sure that it actually happens. And as I said in my slide previously, we're selected for this project and we're going to deliver on it, and we'll be getting Molokai on the board, as it were, with renewable energy project.
All right, Jack, this next question is also for you. To provide maximum community benefit and to demonopolize the utility market, it is important to many of us that the project provide a clear path to community ownership of the project. Will your proposal make this provision?
Well, maybe you could repeat what the provision is. I would start off by saying that we do not have the monopoly on power generation. And that is evidenced by the fact that there are multiple power generation facilities on all various islands across our service area that are not owned or operated by Hawaiian Electric. That's why we have the whole framework for competitive bidding, and the whole RFP process is to provide opportunities for all developers to put in their best offer and provide the best value to our customers, and that's who we think will get selected. Could you just repeat for me what the beginning of that question was?
Sure. To provide maximum community benefit and to demonopolize the utility market, it is important to many of us that the project provide a clear path to community ownership of the project. So that was a statement. The question was, will your proposal make this provision?
Well, I think that our current proposal is that we will be, we're putting in a proposal for the self-build team, and that proposal is for the utility to own and operate the facility, the best value of our customers.
Okay, we're going to go over to Ellen for this question. Do you intend to target more than 40% residential subscribers required by the RFP?
I think that's a possibility. I know we're evaluating the participation rates for residential customers, and there's interest that was stated, from stakeholder meetings previously, where priority is for residential customers and especially for low to moderate income customers. So there is a potential for higher percentage residential participation.
Can I just add on to that?
Sure.
We're definitely going to be seeking more than 40% residential. Now the question may be asking what minimum amount of residential participation is going to be required. And the RFP requires a minimum of 40%. We'll absolutely be seeking to get more than 40% residential. That is the intent of the program. And the remaining, the other 60% can be residential, it can be commercial, but we're not seeking to hit the minimum here.
Okay, Ellen, how feasible is it to subscribe 3 years in advance of the system's actual operation? What if it's delayed?
I think that the subscriptions would only kick in once the facility is in operation. So it's just an early outreach right now, and sharing some information about our proposal so that it's not a surprise to Molokai residents what we're looking to provide or propose. I think any of the whoever this winning bidder is will be able to start to enroll and get interest from subscribers as early as possible, but that subscription fees would not be charged until the project is operational, and then customers can start to receive bill credits.
Okay, this next question, I'm gonna send it over to Jack, but Ellen, you may want to respond to it also. What does community-based mean to you?
Community-based, well, as the program requirements specify, community-based to me means that the project would benefit the community, and that's really the intent here, is that a community who has not yet been able to realize the benefits associated with solar due to whatever their reason is, whether they don't own their facility, or own their own rooftop, whether it's a business or a residence, or they don't own their own rooftop, or they're unable to modify their rooftop, or they're unable to raise the financial wherewithal to install their own solar. Community solar, as the program is laid out, is intended to benefit that section of our community that has been underserved and and unable to realize the benefits of solar power.
I think Jack said it well. I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay, thank you. So this question is for Jack. Will this project create new jobs?
So as the company installs more solar and battery projects, we will need to have folks that can operate and maintain those facilities. And also we'll need folks in the community that we can contract to for vegetation management, maybe electrical maintenance, battery system maintenance, etc. So whether this specific project will employ specific numbers of people, we'll plan to provide that information again when we come back to you after we've had a chance to hopefully get selected for this project and other projects on other islands as well.
Okay, Ellen, this question is for you. What happens if a renter subscribes to the program and then moves to another location on the island?
Subscriptions can be transferable. So we'd work with the subscriber to transfer the subscription that they have, and to right size the subscription as well if the the new residence or the new facility or new home is smaller or larger than the current home.
Okay, Ellen, also,
Okay.
in order to subscribe 40% of the capacity to residential customers, how many homes would that be?
40% of this facility size that we're proposing would represent about 330 or so customers, residential customers. So, and that is the residential, taking out the residential customers already solar.
Okay, thank you. Jack, these next couple of questions are going to be for you. Is the project site in the tsunami inundation zone?
No, it is not.
Okay. How resilient is the project against severe weather?
So the project, if we're selected, will be built to be compliant with existing building codes for this type of facility. Generally speaking, the batteries are very pretty solid, and there's not a lot of risk there. There's always a concern with solar facilities that in a high wind situation that there could be some problems there. So I think that the answer to that question is we'll be in compliance with the existing codes, which allow for winds up to some of the hurricane strengths. I don't think it necessarily lines up with a particular category of hurricane, but it's up in the hurricane strength wind range.
Okay, so this next question has to do also with resiliency, but not weather related. How will this project help Molokai increase its resiliency in an economic and emergency response and sustainability aspect?
Well, this particular project, I think, will, if we're selected, will make a significant contribution to the resilience of the Molokai Island and the grid for several reasons. First of all, as I mentioned, the facility will be black start capable, so it'll be able to start itself back up in the event of a storm or other kind of a natural disaster or outage. This facility will be able to restore itself, and that's an important capability. In addition, because it'll be tied directly into the existing Pala'au substation, which already has all of the existing power lines coming out from it to serve the community. Just like with the power plant, when this facility comes back online after an outage, the power plant operators there and our other employees can use that system, that facility that's tied directly into the hub to restore critical loads on Molokai, according to our critical load restoration plan. Facilities that are located at other parts of the island wouldn't necessarily have that capability. Also, any solar facility makes a contribution to island resilience because any energy, whether or not the facility is producing at full power or some reduced power, the energy that it contributes to the grid reduces the amount of fuel that is required to keep the lights on Molokai. So in the event of a major outage or problem, the facility would be able to reduce the fuel usage necessary and therefore stretch the reserves of energy that are available on Molokai.
So Jack, this question is also for you. This is kind of a common question. Who will be served by this project? Is it only certain districts or the entire island?
Well, it would be the entire island because the facility, as Ellen mentioned when she was explaining how the shared solar program works, the facility is not tied to any particular customer or any particular section of the island. The facility is tied directly into the grid. So any energy that it produces will go to serve all of our customers anywhere on the island.
Okay, so this question can either be for you or McKenna. What is your disposal protocol for the end of life of the panels and batteries? So in other words, at the end of their useful life, what happens?
Well, I can address that. You know, the solar panel, there hasn't yet developed a really good industry for solar panel reclamation or recycling. I anticipate that industry will start up in the coming years as we start to see more solar facilities reach the end of their useful life. The reason why that industry really hasn't started up too much is because solar power hasn't been around in large quantities for long enough for a lot of facilities to go out of service. So we're looking forward to that. With respect to the batteries in particular, we will have an arrangement with the battery supplier to recycle the batteries and take them back so that they can hopefully be refurbished, recycled, or reused.
Here's another question regarding panels and batteries. When sourcing them, do you take ethical precautions regarding mining and human labor issues?
Well, that's a really good question. We haven't sourced them yet, so I'll take note of that concern, and we'll have to look into that.
Okay, our next question for Jack, and Ellen, you can add in if you want to. How much energy will this project produce, and how many homes will it provide power to?
So so the final design hasn't been done, but if we were to proceed with the full up to, as we mentioned, about 2.5 megawatts, we're anticipating that a facility like that would produce maybe 4,700 megawatt hours per year, and that would, if you consider that against the average amount of energy that our residential customers on Molokai consume, which is about 400 kilowatt hours per month, and the math comes out to about 900 homes that the facility would be able to supply energy for over the course of the year.
Okay, I don't see any more new questions coming in, but we'll take a quick commercial break to allow for more questions to come in, and we'll remind folks that you can send us your questions tonight using the WebEx Q&A box, or send them in via the Facebook Live comment box. You can also email us at Molokai CBRE@hawaiianelectric.com or text 808-268-2808. And tonight is not the end of being able to submit your comments and questions. We would encourage you to continue doing that through the end of December. And I don't see any questions yet, but Jack, if you'd like to pull up the next slide and we can go over those resources. So we wanted to share a couple of links where you can find more information about the Shared Solar program. And we'd like to remind you that this presentation will be available for viewing again, if you like, in its entirety on our Hawaiian Electric Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and it will be broadcast again on Akaku channel 54. We don't have any more questions. We still have more time. So I think at this point, if there are no more questions, we would just encourage people to use the email address, and we are more than happy to take your questions and answer them directly to you. So with that, I think we can go to the next slide. We want to thank all of you for your time tonight. It was an opportunity to answer your initial questions. And now that you know a little bit more, we're interested in any feedback that you have, particularly as it relates to the proposed solar facility that we've introduced and the kinds of benefits that customers would like to see as participants in the project, as well as any feedback on the participation terms. We encourage you to ask all the questions that you might have or provide your comments. And again, that address is Molokai CBRE@hawaiianelectric.com. Oh, I just got a note that we have a couple of questions that just came in, so we're waiting for those to come through. And I don't know if you want to, Jack, I'm going to put you on the spot. And, you know, this project was, or this program was called Community-Based Renewable Energy Program, and is now going by Shared Solar. Can you just quickly remind us why we have a change in the name?
Yeah, I was, the name that that Hawaiian Electric is now using, Shared Solar, for this program. Again, that was developed. I hate to sort of pass the buck here, but I wish I could take credit for that. But it was put together by folks that are on the RFP team. And again, I just want to emphasize, you know, there's some questions earlier about the structure of the Shared Solar program or the CBRE program. Community-based renewable energy. I think the other reason why I'd like to take credit for it is because community-based renewable energy is really a mouthful. And I think it causes a lot of people to say, you know, what is that? I would like to mention, though, that the naming of the program, the structure of the program, the intent of the program, I would encourage you to go to this link that we had up on the previous slide. Maybe I can go back up here to Hawaiian Electric's, you know, general site about shared solar. Again, this is not the self-build team's site that we provided you that link to. I can go up here, but it is, you know, it has a lot of information about the background of the program, the requirements of the program, the draft requests for proposals, and the contracts, the code of conduct that we talked about earlier. Those things are all available on HawaiianElectric.com's public site, and those are all the things and that's how we get a lot of our information as the self-build team, either there or from the PUC website.
Okay, Jack, before we go on to the next couple of questions, can you go back to that slide with all the different ways that people can submit questions, please?
All right, you're asking me to do some advanced slide operations here. So let me, here we go. Which one did you want to see?
No, it was the one before that. So people can easily see how to submit questions.
There you go. Okay.
So the question was, how many people are attending today's presentation? So it looks like about 30 participants on WebEx. Unfortunately, we're not able to know how many people are watching via Akaku. That's not information that we have access to, unfortunately. We hope a lot of people are watching. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, people can rewatch this or as it's rebroadcast on Akaku or on YouTube or our Facebook page.
Okay, we got some information that on Facebook we've got about the same number of attendees as we do on WebEx, so about 35 on each. So as far as we know, about 70 plus, but that doesn't include the folks that are watching on TV or some of the folks that are dialed in.
Okay, this question is for you, Jack. I believe the Molokai community has made our ideal situation clear. Open rooftop solar for us to put our own and save 30-ish% versus your project and saving 10%. If you cannot answer questions on savings or match the 30% savings, why should we allow you to build?
Well, I think that we have heard from some folks on Molokai who have expressed those sentiments, and we appreciate that. You know, we've got that. We understand that that's what some folks want. In terms of, you know, the approved process for determining the boundaries of the program, the requirements for savings, the sizes of the program, you know, all of those things are regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. The size of the program and the structure of it. The savings requirements are not specified, although that is one of the topics that's open in the docket right now, whether there should be a required subscriber savings program. And the selection process is also laid out. I think that the selection process is going to be based on what provides the best value to our customers. I would just point out, you know, one of the things that we didn't talk about is the selection process in the RFP. Of course, as the self-build team, we don't know what the details are of how the process is going to be evaluated. But what we do know, and what is, you know, written into the RFP, are the criteria that the RFP team is going to use to select the winning bidder for all these projects. I would encourage folks who are interested in that and are concerned about those kind of things to go and look at that section of the request for proposals. And it's about a 50-50 split between strictly price concerns and about 50% for what they call non-price evaluation criteria. And a lot of those non-price evaluation criteria get to what the folks who are asking that question are asking, which is, you know, what is the value to the community or the environmental impacts? What kind of a community involvement is there? So I think, you know, the bottom line answer to your question is those kind of concerns that some folks have are incorporated into what the RFP team has put together, and the Public Utilities Commission will at some point approve, you know, when they agree with it, in the evaluation criteria for the project. So it's about value for customers on Molokai. And we think that we can provide great value. There may be others who can also provide great value, and I encourage everybody to participate.
If I can add to that, sorry, just to add to Jack's comments, I think the shared solar program provides an opportunity for those customers who don't have rooftops to be able to participate in the benefits of solar, and kind of offering some customer choice for those customers as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. So next question is for you. Are you planning to reserve subscriptions to low and moderate income folks?
I think that that you know, we're evaluating kind of participation levels for low to moderate income subscribers, and really focusing and emphasizing participation by low to moderate income customers.
Okay, I think this question is best answered by Ellen, but Jack, feel free to also answer. Who is REACH? REACH stands for Renewable Energy Action Coalition of Hawaii, and why have they submitted a motion to withdraw?
Maybe Jack can better answer that, but I'm not aware of the reason for their request for withdrawal.
Yeah, good question. You know, I just saw that I get an automatic email myself from the PUC's document management system. I did see that there was a notification for that, and I have not yet had a chance to read that particular filing. So sorry, I can't answer your question. But I would imagine that, you know, if you want to do the research on that, if you're able to get to the docket on the PUC website, you can go back and find that at the, generally speaking, early on in the docket is when participants are, you know, apply to become participants, and they're authorized to do so by the commission. So I should also I just want to make sure that it's clear. you don't need to be a participant in the docket to be a participant in the request for proposals. So there are a lot of stakeholders in the energy business community, and particularly in the shared solar community across the country, that are participants in the docket, that are helping to shape the structure of the program through that docket. But that doesn't necessarily mean, that if this organization that you mentioned is withdrawing their participation in the docket, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're withdrawing their participation from the shared solar program.
Okay, Jack, this question is for you. What kinds of changes to your project will you or have you already made based on the comments and concerns from previous meetings or HECO's addendum of Molokai's renewable energy thoughts?
Well, we've really appreciated the feedback that we've gotten from the various folks that we've interacted with so far, and we're really looking forward to getting more feedback as a result of this meeting. We have reconsidered I wouldn't say reconsidered, I think we have used the feedback that we got to further refine the amount of shared savings that we can offer, or that we should offer. We have we've used that feedback to help us shape the community benefits that will be part of this project. And that part is particularly really important to me because, it's all well and good for anybody to come in and say, well, we want to offer this, we want to offer that. But really, this project and our proposal is about community benefits, and we don't know what benefits the community wants unless the community tells us. So that kind of feedback about levels of savings, about the participation of low to moderate income customers, about employment opportunities, about education opportunities, we have gotten all of that feedback, and we're taking actually all of it into account. We're working with our self-build team to incorporate that kind of feedback and those interests of the community into our proposal.
Okay, I'll take the next question, which is, can you remind us again how to access this recording? So after tonight, the presentation is going to be available on our Hawaiian Electric Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and it will be rebroadcast on Akaku channel 54. I believe we have everybody's email address who signed in for the meeting tonight, and I'm more than happy to email broadcast dates or air dates, as well as a link to that YouTube presentation. So we'll need to take some time to gather all that information and send it out, but it will be available in multiple ways. Okay, we have a couple more questions here. Jack, this is for you. While renewable energy is desired, most can't afford a standalone system. However, MECO is viewed as a monopoly, and so there's distrust here on Molokai. You have an on-island office that was only open 2 hours a week. How do you propose to advocate for a Molokai, and how do you plan to overcome that monopolized perception?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, Hawaiian Electric has the license to transmit and distribute power, and that determination was made based on market conditions and the oversight and regulatory role of the Public Utilities Commission. We do not, nor have we had the sole license or the monopoly to generate power. And you can see that on every rooftop that has solar. People can generate their own power. Now, if they want to connect to the grid and sell power to the utility that we then distribute to others, then that's what this whole RFP process is about. I don't know if there's any more kind of clear way to say that. The very fact that there is a request for proposals that is open to all bidders is testament to the fact that we don't have a monopoly on the generation of power. So, I think that if there are concerns that folks have about that perception, or they think that might be some kind of a reality that they're concerned about, I would encourage folks to engage with the Public Utilities Commission on that matter. That's really a regulatory oversight kind of a question. So I'm sorry, that's as the self-build team, we're here to participate in the RFP under the rules established by the Public Utilities Commission, and to do our best to provide the best value that we can to our customers on Molokai.
Thanks, Jack. This next question is for you as well. Why is the 16-page document filed as other, confidential, and restricted in the PUC docket? It says it is a response to the Commissioner's November 19 letter.
Oh, well, I haven't actually been to the PUC website to see that filing. What I can tell you is that under the rules established by the Public Utilities Commission, there are certain items which are allowed by the Commission to be confidential, and those are things like personal information. There was the letter that the company filed, which I got off the PUC website, just like some of the audience here did. The letter, our response to that letter, was filed and is publicly available. Now, there are certain sections of that filing that are redacted, and when I looked at it the other day, those sections that were redacted were things like people's personal email addresses, or rather not personal email addresses, but people's email addresses and other personal data that is authorized by the Commission to be held as confidential. I don't think anybody would want their personal data published on the PUC website. So when you look at the filed version of that letter, there are sections that are redacted. Now, as part of the normal regulatory process, anytime that anybody files anything to the Commission that has redacted information because it is confidential, immediately thereafter, another version of it is filed without those redactions, and that version is only viewable by certain authorized participants in the docket. So I suspect that what the person is asking about is there should be 2 copies of that letter on the PUC website. One of them is the publicly available one, which has certain personal information redacted, and then usually right after that there's a version of it that is not publicly accessible, but that has the unredacted versions.
Okay, a second part to that question, Jack, is the 31 pages has redacted information, but the 16-page document is not able to be opened.
Yeah, again, I don't know exactly what document that they're referring to, but if it is in fact the document that I mentioned earlier, then it won't be able to be opened. And you can find that in multiple different dockets. The unredacted version of any confidential dockets or documents that are filed with the Public Utilities Commission are, by definition, they're not accessible to the public.
Okay, so we're slowly coming up on our time here. We have a few more minutes to take more questions. So I wanted to draw attention to the screen again and the different ways that you can submit questions tonight. I wanted to take just a few seconds to talk about our project email address, which is Molokai, CBRE@hawaiianelectric.com, and want to let you know that this email is personally monitored by myself, and it is shared with our self-build team and no one else. Your comments and questions that you submit to us become a part of our application. So everything will be documented and submitted as you said it. We have one more question here. If it's the same document, referring back to the last question, if it's the same document, why is one 31 pages and the other 16 pages?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry. I'm speculating that it was the same version of the document. If the page numbers don't match, then it may not be the same document. There may be a different document that is filed as confidential. And one of the reasons why I can't tell you is because I don't have access to that document either, and nobody on the self-build team does. So I can't provided my best speculation as to why that is. If there are documents on there that are confidential, then you can also you can go back and look in the docket. I know it's very voluminous. It's multiple thousands of pages of stuff, but there are established rules in the at the beginning of the docket that the Public Utilities Commission publishes for what types of information can be confidential and what information must be made public by anybody who participates in the docket.
Okay, we don't have any more new questions at the moment. Just want to remind people that, sometimes we don't think our questions that we have and our comments come up after the meeting is done, which is okay, because we will welcome all your questions and comments through December 31st at our project email address, molokaiCbre@hawaiianelectric.com. And yep, no more questions right now. So Jack, do you have any comments overall comments you'd like to say about the project?
Not really about the project, but I would just say in closing, it's really unfortunate that we're not able to get over there to Molokai for this public meeting. We really like to hold public meetings in person and get to know everybody. I know Kuhea's, and Ellen have been over there before for other utility business, and it's just unfortunate. So I'm sorry that we have to join you from so far away, and we're really looking forward to an opportunity to come, back to Molokai when it's safe to do so. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jack. We do have one more question that came in. Are there any more meetings planned before the end of December?
Well, Kuhea, maybe you can best answer that, since you're the guru of all the meetings.
So we are winding down on our small stakeholder meetings, but as far as community meetings of this nature, there won't be any more through December. But as we said earlier, you can, watch presentation. It's the same presentation that has been being presented to other groups, virtually the same. And so if you have comments and questions to submit, by all means, we welcome those. Okay. One more question. Okay, so the question is, how will you answer questions we ask of you? And the answer to that is, we should have your email address if you've sent us a question, and we'll be more than happy to reply to you directly via our project email address. If you are texting us, you might want to include your email address so that we can get back to you through email. If you don't have access to email, that's also fine. Okay, so I don't see any more questions, but we definitely want to thank you folks for all of the hard questions that you asked, and that's what we want from you. We want to know what you're interested in knowing about this program and the project, and answer those questions now and throughout. As Jack said, we want to talk with you, constantly and regularly throughout this project. We want to thank Akaku, Maui Community Media, and members of our self-build team who have been working behind the scenes to make this virtual meeting possible. It takes many hands. And with that, we want to thank all of you for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. And we wish all of you a great holiday season, and please stay safe. Aloha.